Welcome again to Take 5 with Father Tom, the Easter edition. So we continue our journey in the Easter season, looking at our first readings at Mass from the Acts of the Apostles. This week, our Gospel, our Lord at the Last Supper gives the new commandment, love one another as I have loved you. And at the end of the passage that we'll hear at Mass, he says, this is how they will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. We really see that lived out in the first reading from the Acts of the Apostles. So we pick up with Paul and Barnabas. We saw them in last week's reading. I'll say a little bit about Paul. St. Paul, of course, he had been persecuting Christians. Then he has that conversion experience that's recounted in the Acts of the Apostles, the great light, the voice, and then he's converted, and then he's out proclaiming the good news and traveling throughout the region, establishing churches, and that's where we pick up. You know, there's a parallel in the Acts of the Apostles. Earlier on, in the early part of the book, there's a focus on St. Peter. We had a couple readings featuring St. Peter. Now, as we move on in the book, we're reading about St. Paul, and the Acts presents them kind of in parallel. Paul is traveling with someone named Barnabas. We'll talk about Barnabas in a minute. So we pick up in our first reading. They're traveling through these little cities, Lystra and Iconium, in present-day Turkey. And they're going back to places that they visited previously and kind of reminding them of the gospel and encouraging them in the faith. Paul's companion here, Barnabas, it's a nickname. It literally means son of encouragement. He was given that name because he was someone who traveled with Paul, traveled to these different communities and encouraged them. So once they had founded the church and adopted the faith, they still needed to be nurtured. They still needed to be encouraged. And that's what we see here. So we hear that they strengthened their spirits of the disciples and exhorted them to persevere in the faith, even through hardships. So we read about them giving this strengthening, giving this encouragement to the disciples in these new churches. You know, encouragement is such an important part of the Christian faith. We live out our faith in the community of the church, and we can all reflect on times perhaps when we've received encouragement in the faith, or we've been given the opportunity to do that with other people. There could be encouragement in terms of understanding the faith. Sometimes we're struggling just understanding and believing. We can need encouragement in living out the faith in the face of struggles that we're having in life. They could be struggles that we're having in our physical life, emotional struggles, all of the different challenges that we have. And just as Paul and Barnabas were encouraging the folks in these churches, so we need that encouragement at times. It could even just be encouragement that we need to find community, find a connection within the church. And that's really what Paul and Barnabas are doing. And we read here that the church is growing. It's because of their witness, it's because of their support and encouragement that these small churches are actually able to hold together and actually grow. So our first reading is really a beautiful account of what's happening in the early church, but it's also a reminder to us of how important it is for us. We can reflect on times we've received encouragement from others within the church, but also a call for us to be attentive to opportunities that we can provide encouragement. We do it through our ministries in the church to folks who are in need in some way. We do it when we come together in hospitality. We do it when we come together in small groups. All of the different ways that we're called to create communities of faith that offer support and encouragement. That's a great lesson for us from our first reading. God bless you.